Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Retail Shenanigans. If I am not mistaken, this is episode 11 now. Fantastic. I'm so happy that we have made it this far. I've had such a great time and a lot of fun doing this show, and I tell you, I don't want to stop. And it's just every time we do it, I feel like we get a little better and we have a little bit more fun. And today, guys, we have another twofer. Today on my show, I have Bridget Nailbone and Sadie Barch. Sadie, if I butchered your name at all, I do
No, you
apologize.
didn't. You actually got it right. I'm proud of you.
Fantastic. Just a little backstory for you guys. I actually went to high school with Bridget. She was in band with me. Unfortunately, she was one of those. I'm a trumpet player.
Careful now.
No, no, no. Much respect. No, I go way back with Bridget. We were in marching band and everything together, so that was a lot of fun. This is the first time me speaking to Sadie. So Sadie, Bridget, welcome to the show.
Woohoo! We're here.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, most
I'm
definitely.
excited.
I know we originally tried to do this yesterday, but literally right before we started, my mouse took a giant shit on me, and then today, and well, it's with the with the lockdown, it was already
Yeah.
later in the evening, and I have two small children, so if we got to go get something, it's one of us stays here while the other goes out, and it was just better to try to reschedule it for today, and then I didn't get off until late today, but I'm glad, everything stars align and we're here.
Yeah, the world is pure chaos right now. We just have accepted it. It's like there's absolutely no obligations to meet any deadlines right now because we all are just like, this is useless.
This is fine.
This is fine. Meanwhile, the house is on fire. No, we're
Yes.
good. We're
We're
good.
good. We're totally fine. We just have mice shitting on us and the
Right.
world's coming to an end.
Oh my God. Speaking of that, not to, again, I try to make it sure I leave this open for all my guests to, as much time for them to tell their stories and things that they want to say. But I do got to say, I was introduced to something that I did some research on today that fucking blew my mind. So 2 days ago, I was watching the Joe Rogan podcast and I was listening and they were talking about how in New York, that the restaurants, how they've been closed for about a month and a half now, that because these restaurants have been closed and there's not as much trash and food waste and all this other shit, the rats are literally going to war with each other and eating each other.
No.
Oh, wow.
They said it is like a literal rat war in New York City right now, where the
That's
rats,
so sad.
it's not even just in the sewers. Like they'll go walking around and you will see packs of rats feasting on each other.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Wild.
Wrap your head around that next time you go to New York.
Yeah, no, thank you. I've seen one of
boy.
those rats. I wonder how they're doing right now.
Oof.
I'm scared for them now.
No, buddy.
You're scared for the rats?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about all the rats I've ever seen when I've been in New York, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
wonder about how they're doing at this moment.
So that
That's very-
specific rat that you saw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your little buddy.
Oh boy, just don't name them because they probably are dead.
Oh, Quincy, I'm so sad.
All right, so that would be now that we've got a good laugh out of the way, I think that would be a good way to really get started with the questions of the show. And the root of it, the show is called Retail Shenanigans, and I've really broadened that out to really anybody that has anything to do with sales or just dealing with the people, with the public. Sorry, excuse me, in general.
Yeah, so this is totally relevant because we sell rats.
No, but you do deal with the public.
Yes, no, absolutely.
I couldn't resist. I'm sorry.
No, you're totally fine. A rat salesman. Well, ever since the great economy, the great shutdown of the coronavirus,
We've been
Whew.
our sales have been through the roof.
Woo! If you've ever seen History of the World Part 1, it's a really old Mel Brooks movie. Mel Brooks, fantastic comic, and just made movies that you couldn't make today. He was an old Jewish guy, and oh my God, like 90% of his jokes were all about Jewish people or just things in general. So they did this bit in History of the World Part 1. Here I am going off track again, but that's okay. they
Your
did
show.
this bit where they were in during the French Revolution, where everybody was poor and there was nothing, and then there you would just go by and people trying to sell trash, apple cores, and there was a guy selling dead rats, and I forget what all he was saying. He was saying something that you can make rat pie, rat tartar, and the ever popular ratatouille, and he was just selling rats, and I'm like, what the hell, man?
Oh
And
my
then
gosh,
like people who
I love
keep
that.
them, that like, and I understand that you can buy some clean rats and keep them as pets, but they spread the fucking plague, man. Like they are dirty fucking animals, and no, thank
Oh
you.
man. Uh,
But anyway, I digress. So this question will be directed to both of you. So I know that you both are tattoo artists. Have you
Mhm.
ever done anything like as far as besides that, or have you pretty much that's been your passion?
So I have been tattooing for about 8 years now.
And is this Sadie?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Sadie.
Yes.
So I've been tattooing for about 8 years now. Uh, Currently just opened our first tattoo studio here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So that is our newest venture. And then I recently took on Bridget. How long ago do you think you started?
Probably close to 2 years at this point is when we
Yeah.
first started, like, getting together and seriously discussing the apprenticeship. Yeah.
So um, she's been doing it for a pretty decent amount of time, like just still in the beginning process, but of the tattooing, but is really expanding to being able to take a larger clientele and is moving in the right direction, doing a really incredible job. So um, it's been a really fun process having the combo
Mhm.
now instead of just like me on my own figuring it out. So
Right. No, I understand that. And you said so you actually have your own shop now, right? What's happens to be the name of that, and where could you find that shop?
We are called Clover Tattoo. We're located in the city of Lancaster. It is a little quaint private studio. We try to specialize in making sure that we create a comfortable environment for everyone in
Hmm.
whatever walk of life they have.
I feel like
And
comfortable is an understatement. That place is cute as fuck.
it's
If you want to come,
cozy.
if you want to come visit our lovely little like Hufflepuff aesthetic den, we'll let y'all know when we're open again.
Yeah.
Yes, please. We will definitely once you guys reopen. I tell all my people who I have on here anytime they have any plugs they want to throw out, especially with the everything being shut down right now. As soon as everything starts opening back up, anybody send me messages. I will make sure I let everybody who listens know. Whenever businesses are back up and running. And next time I come up to visit Pennsylvania, I will definitely be stopping in to take a look around.
Hell
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So, with about 8 years you've been doing it, Sadie, and Bridget, you've been doing it for about two. And then, or sorry, is that like in total, or is that just since you've had the shop, or was the shop just 2 years?
No. We opened the shop
In
November of
November.
2019. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So,
And I've only
Bridget,
been tattooing since around September.
right.
Okay.
So the tattooing process is still pretty new, but she's getting to the point where she is getting more consistent with her technique and being able to create like this brand of her own. And it's really blossoming and doing really well in the city. And I'm super excited to see what is going to happen here in the future.
Hell yeah, I know. Remember when I lived in PA. I lived in York almost my whole life, pretty much, and there were tattoo shops everywhere in York City. But
Hmm.
then I always heard like, oh well, don't go to this one because oh they got this person got really messed up, or like oh they don't clean their needles, or
Hmm.
oh they're whenever they pierce your ear it got infected or blah blah blah, and
Hmm.
it's really nice to hear
Such
from.
drama, yeah.
Yeah, but it's also really nice to hear when you have a shop that that it's you go in and it's a comfortable environment. I've walked into some places and I've been a person who's really how do I say it? Like I'm okay with mostly anything, but when you walk into a place and it's just in your face, 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 it's like let's. Some people might be getting their first tattoo. Let's simmer it down a little bit.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's something that we both are really passionate about. It's the fact that tattoos often are a segue to healing for a lot of people, because it's so therapeutic. It's something that you can actually have control over, being able to change the way that you perceive yourself and the way that everyone around you perceives you. Having that power can be really, really awesome for some people to be able to heal through really terrible things. And when you have an environment that is super stimulating and overly in your face, it's really hard for them to be able to use it in a way that is going to actually benefit them in the long run. So having a shop that is more comfortable and
Hmm.
laid back and on the mellow end of things, we try to exemplify like being able to have a space where you're able to actually breathe for a little bit. So um, yeah, I really love having the opportunity to give people a space where they can just exist for a little while and not feel like they have any other obligations. Um,
Yeah,
and
I think we were both super aware of what kind of environment we wanted to create, like from the get go, from the moment we started uh, even considering, an apprenticeship and being in business together. Um, it's always been something that's been at the front of our minds, and so we both had basically the same idea, the same page about creating an environment that you can just be comfortable in. And it also works out really well because we both work better in that kind of environment as
mhm,
well.
yeah.
No, most definitely, and it's a complete. First off, it's awesome to be able to get this aspect of dealing with the public on the show, because a lot of my customers. Geez, I'm still thinking about work. A lot of my guests that I've had on, and many of them who I've either worked with or have just been around a lot in my life. They either worked, some sort of retail, or they worked grocery retail, or my last guest, he worked gun sales. So like that's what he did. But it's still, you guys still deal. If you think about it, yes, you're artists and you're things of that, but you still are in sales. You have to. I mean, and that I could be wrong, but that's just how I'm
No, no,
seeing it.
no,
But
absolutely.
you guys have to sell your product. I mean, you're
Hmm.
you're artists
Yeah,
that, and your canvas is people's bodies. Like
Right.
someone has to like you have to be able to sell your art that well that someone's going to carry around your artwork for the rest of their life.
Well, and something that I've talked about with Bridget, like since the beginning of us starting her apprenticeship, is that no one is ever going to be more excited about your art than you are. And if you don't feel like you're pumped about the things that you're creating and you don't feel like it is actually something that speaks to you, it's probably not going to speak to somebody else. And so we're not just creating tattoos, we're trying to connect with our customers and be able to give something that they feel like they want to have forever. So we do really sell a lot. I mean, we have to create the content, the product, and like everything from like nothing, basically,
yeah,
with
and
artistry.
exactly. Sometimes it's almost like we're selling pieces of ourselves because we're so connected to the art that we're doing.
Right.
And I think that's like the difference between having someone who's a client and having someone who's a customer is that your clients, you want to have a little bit more of a connection versus if in retail, especially if it's just a customer, then they're
Right.
just buying a thing that they may, a thing that they want or a thing that they need.
Right.
um yeah.
No, I definitely I 100% agree with you. And oh crap, well, there was something I wanted to say about that, but it completely just
It's all good.
that's okay. It'll probably come back to me soon.
Yeah.
But it's definitely like dealing with the public in general. No matter if it's something like with what I'm doing or like what you guys are doing, it still presents that opportunity where you're still going to run into those same situations where your story might be something different than, let's say, a story from mine, but the idea and the principle behind the incident that happened, it's interchangeable. Like this person was upset
Hmm.
about this stupid thing, or blah 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 and whatever.
Hmm.
And actually,
Yeah.
on top of that, it just came back to me what I wanted to say. I 100% agree with you about no one's going to be more excited about your art than you, which again, for me, I am so pumped about this podcast. I'm trying to talk it up to everybody.
Yeah,
I'm literally trying to get interviews set up every day. I
that's
want to grow
awesome.
the brand, and I want to have fun with it. And like there are people that are like, yeah, I like it, and they they'll like and subscribe and whatnot. But for me personally, whenever perfect example, a buddy of mine who I've been talking to for weeks, trying to get him to listen to the podcast. The other night, I go to sleep super early because I work uber early. So
Hmm.
I go to bed, and all of a sudden my phone goes off, and I look over thinking it's great. A third shifter called off. I got to go to work. Whatever. But it's just a friend of mine who I've been trying to get for weeks to listen to the podcast sends me this message like, "Hey man, I love the show. It's hilarious. I want to be on." Literally turned my mood night and day, and it was like, wow, that makes me so happy that someone else has like a minute amount of happiness like I do. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
no, yeah, absolutely. It's definitely like mutually satisfying to be
Yes.
able to create something for someone that like they enjoy.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in feeling that. Like
No.
that's awesome. Like that's the point. Like that's
Yes.
the point of creating things.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, and I get so hyped up about it, and then I'm talking to my wife about it, and she's happy and she supports me. But then I look at her because I'm like a kid in the candy store, like jittery all about it, and like, oh my god, I got a new subscriber, and she's like, awesome, and I'm like, you need to be more excited.
I do the exact same thing to my husband with my social media.
Yeah.
I like will be like, babe, like this post is like got like this many interactions, blah blah blah, and like going through like all of the statistics, everything, because I'm
Right.
so pumped. And he's like, "Hey, wow, you're winning the internet, baby. Go you!" Because I'm just like, ah,
Right.
look
No,
at
I
this. It's
100%
actually
that's
doing
me.
its job.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think I literally have this thought every day, even on days when I'm not at the shop, where I'm just like, wow, I like how fortunate am I to have a job that I would do whether I get paid for it or not.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
It's really definitely a privilege for
yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
it's that old adage. If you enjoy your job, you'll never you never work a day in your life.
Hmm.
Unfortunately,
Hmm.
I am a people person.
Yeah.
I've worked retail my whole life. I'm a
Hmm.
store manager now, and as much as I love my job, there are still days where I hate it.
Yeah. No,
So
absolutely. I
100%, I believe in that, but there are still days where it's like, is it quitting time yet?
yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And like, okay, so even with this attitude of gratitude
Yes.
for this job, there are still times when it's a little more stressful or a little more difficult to deal with. Maybe someone, a client will come with a request that I don't really get that excited about, but I do it
Hmm.
anyway because I want to keep progressing.
Right.
Um, and so that's when it becomes like it takes a little more of a toll, whether that's just in my own energy for it
Hmm.
or whatever that is. But at the end of the day, I'm making a living making art that makes people happy. So
Most
like
Yes.
I
definitely.
can't complain about that.
Exactly. I mean, definitely it is like a job that is not only like physically tasking because of like the way that you have to work with people's bodies, but also it's very mentally exhausting. Because we are trying to be so focused on such fine details and trying to like stay concentrated, obviously. So it's definitely a very taxing job, but in like the most rewarding ways because like I've had some of like the coolest conversations with some of like the coolest people and been able to help people feel more comfortable in their bodies or hear their stories of how like this has impacted their life so far, and it's the coolest thing. Like I it definitely like levels itself out where it feels like hard work. It definitely gets easy with like how overwhelmingly joyous it is.
Right. And I definitely think that's a great jumping point into the next question I have for you both. So looking back over whether it's Sadie, it's your 8 years that you've been doing it, or Bridget, you working on your second year, and as much as both of you continue to just grow your experience or your brand or your shop. So if you had to think back to through all of your experiences with tattooing, whether it's concept, drawing the art, or if somebody already has an idea, or if they want you to create something, what if, or like to down to the brass tacks of actually doing it and spending hours on the chair with somebody, what would you say go back is your absolute best memory? Like, what is the best thing that like just made you happy in what you were doing? And it doesn't have to be some grand like somebody went up and on your business's webpage and wrote this like 10-page awesome review. It could be something as, which if that is what it is, that's absolutely perfect. But sometimes you get a little someone coming in and like weeks later or months later and saying thank you, this really is exactly what I wanted, blah blah blah. That kind of stuff is also just as important. So if you guys want to take turns, go ahead, and if you want to share whatever your best memory is, I'm dying to hear.
Yeah. I guess I'll go first. I know mine.
Yeah, you go first.
So it was probably 5 years ago at this point. I was still pretty new into my tattoo career, but at this point I was in my second shop. Euphoria Tattoo Emporium. It's in York, PA. Gabby Pier.
Shout out to
yeah,
them.
shout out to the homeboys.
The OG shop.
Yeah. And I was working there. We were originally at our first location on George Street. They now are over on Market Street towards the fairgrounds over there.
Market Street over at the fairgrounds. Are you talking about the...
it's the one on the corner
of Highland Avenue?
Yeah.
Holy shit. Okay, so I grew up, so my home where I lived as a child, like, I don't say a child, but like third grade on, I guess, I lived literally right around the corner from there, and I can't tell you how many times that business changed hands. Like, what if it was
oh my gosh, I know. Seriously. I mean, I think there's been maybe one or two tattoo shops before Euphoria went in there.
Oh, yeah.
I know for sure, at least.
And I didn't mean that like that the people who run it now are bad.
That's
not
what
I meant. No.
No. I understand. It's crazy. It like flip-flopped all the time.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, they're located there now, and they love it. I mean, it's beautiful. They reworked the whole building. It looks awesome inside. But yeah, so that's where I was. Anyway, back to my story. Sorry. No, I like was trying to remember where I left off because I'm like, whew, that like I forget things so quickly. But anyway. So I was working there, and I had a woman come into the shop, and she had a walker, and her partner was with her as well, leading her into the room. And she came up to the front desk, and we started talking, and she ended up explaining that she had ALS, and that she had a prognosis of like 3 more weeks.
Jesus.
And that she, the one thing that she wanted to do is she was always, before she had gotten her diagnosis, she was someone who really enjoyed biking and going hiking and being outside and all those things. And she was a part of a lot of like different marathons and those things. And those were things that she was really prideful of for like the life that she's lived. And so she wanted to get a mountain bike tattoo, and it was like her like last thing that she wanted to do. And so I ended up having to sit her down and strap her to the armrest so that her arm, because her arm spasmed because of the illness, and she just cried the whole time. And I cried the whole time because she was able to finally take control of her body for the first time in years and be able to see something that she wanted to see every day when she looked at herself, instead of seeing like all the illness that is like riddling her body, and how she was losing her speech and how she was losing control over all these things. This was one thing that she had control over. And so like she ended up recovering, like not completely, obviously ALS is something that's going to always progress, but she ended up recovering her voice, and she is starting to be able to walk a little more, and she's doing pretty well at this point. But getting to see her watch like her like say, this doesn't mean anything to me, but my like I'm able to decide what my body is, and I'm gonna tell it what it's capable of. And she was able to like make progress. Like being a part of that whole thing
Holy
was
shit,
not
dude.
like
This is my first time hearing this story, by the way.
Yeah,
it was like
that's fucking
that
beautiful.
was the moment when I realized that like tattoos are not just like a thing to do to feel pretty in a vain process, but it's something that like there's so much we don't have control of in the world, but we have control over the one thing, which is ourselves. And being able to have the opportunity to say, you know what, that's worth me, like that's worth having for me forever. And being able to do that for someone and make them feel like more capable or more comfortable in their own skin, like that is the biggest privilege in the entire world. And that's made me so much more passionate about this job, because it goes way beyond just getting something pretty.
No, that's fucking beautiful. I'm so grateful that you were able to share that story on my show. Bridget, not that
That's
you're going to be able
amazing.
to.
No, I quit. I'm done.
But seriously, that was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that on my show.
Oh yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah. It was. I'm just privileged to have gotten to experience it. You know. So.
That was beautiful. Bridget, would you like to get on the stage and after that explosive set?
Yeah, how do I play second act to Saint Sadie?
I mean, that's like going on stage at stand up after Dave Chappelle just murdered everybody, and it's like, well, now here's a newcomer.
Hello, it's me. I'm the newcomer.
Meanwhile, everybody in the back's walking out.
Oh my gosh. No, I want to hear your story. I'm excited to hear
This
it.
is the part where you can turn off the podcast. We're done now.
Yeah.
That's a wrap, guys.
Oh
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
I mean, I'm spent. I'm out. that was it for me.
Okay. Oh, man. Wait, hold on. I'm still stuck on one thing about your story, though. You said she had like 3 weeks to live, and this is 5 years later that you're like still in contact with her?
Yeah.
That's fucking wow.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It was the craziest thing that I've ever experienced. It was the most wild thing ever.
Well, I don't want to speak for that person, and I really want Bridget to go, but I just wanted to say one more thing about that. You know you have something to do with that, right? That you were able to help her with that, and that motivation and that strength that gave her. I hope you know that you're part of the reason she's still here. And I understand I'm not a doctor, I'm not any kind of psychiatrist, I'm a fucking idiot. But I'm telling you right now, you're part of the reason she's still here.
Oh my gosh, well, I can't like personally be like, yeah, that was totally me. You're fucking right, dude. But I really appreciate that sentiment. Like, I mean, it honestly means so much to me. So I'm just happy I got to help.
All right, Bridget, your turn.
Mine is probably nowhere near as specific as that.
But hey, as long as it means something to you, that's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited to hear what has encouraged you and made you feel...
honestly, I think it was like after all of like Sadie's initial coaching and like just having her be the #1 cheerleader ever, when I finally felt like secure enough to quit my office job.
Wow. So not only did you feel confident enough in yourself as an artist, but you felt confident enough that you could support you and your family. And when I say family, if it's just, I don't know, but if it's just you or your partner, or even if you have an animal, that is your family. So you
Hmm.
felt confident enough that you could support yourselves by going out and do something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's that's awesome.
absolutely. So that was like the main shift in like my entire concept of my life was leaving that job, which to be fair was a super duper stressful like higher level corporate job. I used to work in administration.
Okay.
Um and I was there for about a year and a half. And to to leave a full-time job that made, like $40,000 a year, to be able to quit that
Right.
in order to follow something that, I wanted to do more than anything else. Like, I think probably about 5 years ago was when I first asked Sadie if I could be her apprentice. So to have that come back around full circle and be able to just chase that dream is something truly amazing.
Yeah. I love that. That makes me so happy. I'm so happy you're happy.
Yeah,
I'm
most
happy
definitely.
we're happy together.
Hell
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I've had a pretty unique experience in that I did know Sadie for a long time before I became her apprentice. So she basically like we met when I was in high school, and then she saw my progress as I went through college, and I was an art major and all of this stuff. Um, and then so having that background, and I think we originally met through dance. So it wasn't even art related to begin with. We were just
I mean,
friends.
kind of an art, but with
Yeah. Not this art.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I kind of have like a unique experience where I didn't have to go out and really look for an apprenticeship. It just kind of a whirlwind of good fortune happened, and here we are.
Hey, ladies. I guess there's somebody knocking at my door. Can you give me 2 seconds here?
Yeah,
I'm so
sure,
sorry.
absolutely.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Is he still recording?
I don't know. Probably. We should say something really entertaining right now while he's not able to.
Well, I just wanted to tell you how much I love you.
Oh, I love you. Oh man.
Yeah.
I've been so lazy today. I've just been, like I tried to do all like this stuff to get these tote bags delivered, and it just did not happen today. I'm so frustrated. So I'm gonna try again tomorrow, but I will never ship without a third party service.
Oh man,
Like,
that is a podcast first. So it's not even anybody knocking. I think somebody in the apartment below me is just like pounding or something, being jackasses.
they're probably
Oh my goodness.
they're fist bumping the wall.
I don't know, man. All I'm saying is if you have the opportunity and you can not live with neighbors like attached to your house, please do it.
Oh my gosh, we just bought a house, me and my husband, and we are so happy to not be in an apartment complex anymore. Oh my gosh. It's like a dream
Yeah.
to not have to listen to people.
I am completely sorry, ladies, and everybody listening. I apologize that I walked away for a second, but I unfortunately had to go see what was going on.
It's all right. We just told each other we loved each other.
Well, that's awesome.
Over and over again.
I'm glad that my podcast listeners could hear that. So
Yeah.
now that we've heard the best, I'm gonna boomerang it, and I want to bring it around to the worst. What would be worst memory? And since we started with Sadie for best, let's start with Bridget. What is your worst memory?
Yeah, go ahead, B.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna try to tell this story without being too dramatic about it.
Okay.
Sadie already knows the story.
I know exactly which story you're gonna tell too.
Okay, so it was
Just don't use names. Just
no,
use
I won't
names.
use names. I won't use names. It was my first time doing my own like flash event. And for anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's basically a day where we have a bunch of designs already drawn up, and people come in, they sign up for whichever one they want, and then we do it. It's a real fast process. Um, and, it's pretty exciting. Usually there's a theme, so this one was Friday the 13th back in September. Um, it was right after I had started actually tattooing on people, so, like, it was only a few weeks, probably maybe a month after I tattooed on Sadie for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were, like, in the middle of this flash event, right? I was so excited. I was so pumped. I had been, like, posting on my social media about it for, like, a week and a half leading up to this flash event. And I was so excited. And I was having such a good time. I got through, I think, 3 clients, and we were about halfway through the day. When other people who worked in the shop that we were in came in and basically shut the whole thing down, and they were like, by the way, we're not okay with Bridget tattooing here.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was just in shock about it because, like, I had been marketing this thing and, tagging the shop location on social media and things like
Right.
that for a week leading up to it. So they could have said something at any time being like, hey, we're not comfortable with this, and then I would have just, canceled the whole thing and not, been so last minute about
Yeah.
it. The whole thing.
No.
Not just the whole instance of it. I had to, like, cancel the rest of my clients that had signed up for that day and everything. And it just was so infuriating and made me feel so powerless and so unworthy that day. I was like, it was just the worst thing that could have happened, and I was so angry.
Well, the reason it was extra bitter was because of the fact that, like, she had been working at the shop for a while and had been doing some tattoos, and they knew about it, and it was just, like, an instance of where they wanted to, like, have power control over what was happening, and, like, just, like, be big bosses with big dick energy. But
yeah, previously no one had said anything, like, to me or to Sadie about any level of discomfort. Like, I even felt encouraged, like, whenever Sadie would say, look at what my apprentice did, everyone would be like, yeah, cool, that's awesome.
But then we were just like, well, fuck it, let's go open a different one. So
yeah, it was kind of like, it was very bittersweet because it was like, yeah, this, horribly emotional thing that just happened, but also it was the catalyst for us making our very own shop and having our own workspace where we can just be buddies all the time. So
yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. And first off, the fact that not only were you giving that shop I'm so upset I can't even talk right now. Free publicity for one, and then you were getting them business because I mean, I might not know exactly how it works, but, like, I'm sure, like, if there's a tattoo, like, the shop makes X amount of money and then the artist makes X amount of money or whatever. I don't know how it works. But the fact that they let this go on for all this time, and then the day of, then they come in, oh, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, no, it was just, like, a lot of really terrible communication on their part, and but, from, like, it's just, it was what we had to happen, I guess. It unfortunately was terrible, and it was so frustrating.
Yeah,
it was. I hated every second of it, but at the same time, like, it's like it did lead us into a positive direction, at least. So, but yeah, it was really frustrating.
It is a really, like, shitty memory to have, of those feelings, but also I'm not, like, butthurt dwelling on it all the time anymore.
Absolutely.
Right.
Anyway.
No, it's just, as people, we grow and we learn. I mean, granted, and again, I don't try to keep throwing too much of my personal in there, but there's things that happened to me in my life where at the time when it happened, I'd say for a good 6 months to a year afterwards, I don't want to use the word bitter, but I was like,
no,
fuck that bitch energy.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was just like, and even to this day, if something about this certain person gets brought up, I'm still like, well, that person's a hoe or this
Yeah,
person's a
exactly.
bitch or whatever. And it doesn't affect me so much because of, like you said, something bad happened that then led to now the best thing in your life. Like, not that I'm embarrassed about it or anything, but I
No,
was I
absolutely
was
Mhm.
not.
uh, I was previously married, and I was in the
Hmm.
worst relationship of my life. And after getting finally, you know realizing that I needed to separate myself from the situation and do what's best for me, you know, I was married to this person. I was with this person and married for 5 plus years. And then now I'm soon to be married again to my current fiance. I have two
Hmm.
beautiful children, and I don't even live in this state I was born in. I live all the way in Texas, and I'm making the best money I've ever made, and my life is
That's awesome.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's it's a really cool thing when you stand up for yourself.
Oh yeah.
It
Anyway,
takes a
I
lot of
apologize to
balls,
throw
though.
mine into
Nah,
there.
it's
I
good.
try to leave this open for a lot of my customers. Customers. See, there I go again.
You need to stop with your customers. That's so funny.
All right, Sadie. So now I think we can turn it over to you then. So what would you say is your worst memory of doing this?
Um, so I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and I was out of work for 10 months because of like dealing with that and some other medical issues. And so I was out of work for 10 months, and I had this client. Oh my gosh. I had tattooed her before,
Okay.
and she had put down a $50 deposit for another tattoo right before I had gotten sick.
Okay.
All deposits are non-refundable. They go towards the drawing time,
Mhm.
which at that point I had already invested time into that drawing.
Okay.
Um, and it also secures your spot for your tattoo appointment. And it pays for like the setup fee and everything. So she paid this deposit. I am about 6 or 7 months into my being out of work, and at that point, they did not know what was wrong with me. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was just like sick, and I was like in pain all the time, and
Mhm.
I just was not able to work at all. And this girl messages me asking if I'll refund her deposit, and I was like, unfortunately, they're non-refundable. They pay for the drawing
Right.
and they paid for whatever. And I explained the whole situation to her, and she was like, "What are you talking about? That's stealing." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And she was like, "I am like, you can't do that to me. You're stealing my money." And I was like, "No, that money is gone. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I paid for the rent. Like
Right.
I used that $50. And unfortunately, I'm not out of work because like I'm choosing to be out of work. I'm out of work because I'm physically incapable. And also at this point, like you can either wait to see like what's gonna happen. I'm planning on tattooing again. She was like, "Well, what if you don't?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't want to think about that." And she still was like, "You're stealing from me." And I'm like, "No, this is like the policy." Like I even sent her the like big sign we had in the middle of the shop that had like the policy on it.
Right.
And was like, "Listen, like this is how it is. Like you either decide to wait and like still redeem that $50, or you just are gonna be out $50. I don't know what you want from me." And so she's never talked to me again, and now I'm tattooing full time, and I've never heard from her. So it was just terrible feeling like completely like helpless in like being like just like physically incapable of like doing your job, and then on top of that have like your customers accusing you of like stealing their money. There it's like I'm
Jesus
like,
Christ.
well, okay, just like kick me while I'm down. It's fine. No problem. It's fine. I
Yeah.
am the it's fine dog for sure.
Well, it's like there's no reason for it. I mean, especially if it's clearly stated. It'd be no different if she paid somebody to, like, let's say, make her a blanket or commission her a
Mhm.
painting. Okay.
Mhm.
Oh, well, I need X amount up front for supplies and,
Right.
blah blah blah, so that way if something happens, whether it's on your end or my end, I'm
Mhm.
not just totally out of my money here.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen stories like that before where they'll freak out and they'll go off the wall, and I'm like, you want something cheap, go to Walmart or one of these other places. But if you want it done by someone you know, like you want to pay somebody to do this, you pay for their work.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, like, do you go to the dentist and get your braces and then like ask for your money back? No, you like it doesn't happen like that. Like I mean, like the thing is that like we're a business and we have to be able to make like some upfront money to like survive like
Right.
until we get that big tattoo or whatever. And also it's a security blanket for ourselves because of the fact so many people do have to reschedule or something happens or whatever.
Most
Or
definitely.
they just don't show up.
Right, exactly. Like you have to have something like your time is worth it. My time is at least worth $50. Like that like you're waste like I should have charged her more for wasting my time.
Man, people are fucking crazy. And like I said before, it doesn't matter if you're doing what I do, you do, or if it's just like even somebody who
Yeah.
like who sells houses, or take it to the biggest extreme.
That's what I'm
with
saying.
A fucking
Like,
stockbroker. Everybody runs into the same type of situation, just same type of principle of a situation, but it's just shaped differently for every instance.
yeah, and for some reason there's this stigma that like tattoo shops don't run like reputable businesses,
Right.
that they're always trying to like do everything cash, so like you don't have to do your taxes or
Right.
like all those kind of things. Like we can still have like a reputable business, we can still have our policies, and
Right.
you need to respect them. Like you can't just push us around just because we're artists.
Or let me pay you $100 less, but I'll pay you directly and you come to my house and do it, dude.
Right. Yeah, like, oh, yo, I'll pay you the $50 for the deposit and the drawing, and you send me that drawing, and I'll go get a tattoo by somebody else for cheaper. Like,
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
that's why I don't give out drawings. Like,
No.
there's like a reason for everything,
Ugh.
and like people just don't think outside of their little bubble.
No, it's total bullshit. It's like I used to work at a specialty shop up in Pennsylvania, and you'd get the people that come in and they want your opinion because you know what you're talking about, and the whole time you're giving them your opinion about what you have here in the store, you see them on their phone looking at that same item on Amazon or eBay, wherever they're trying to get it cheaper. Like, well, you know what? If you didn't want, if you want to go buy it there, go ahead. Then
Right.
get someone else's advice, because I'm getting paid to try to sell you this, not for you to come in, get my advice, walk out the door, and order it from Amazon.
Right. Right.
Total bullshit. Well,
People just don't think about buying smarter. That's
Yeah.
really what it comes down to. They think about like buying it as quickly and as cheaply as possible, but then that's resulting in them having worse products and like having like to like have this system that doesn't work for them.
Most definitely. I mean, for what I did is I originally, like exactly what I'm recording on now, I've done everything myself. Yes, I've asked people for help on how to figure things out. But for the most part, my computer, everything, I put it together myself by hand, so that way I knew how to do it. I looked up how to do it on YouTube. Shout out to my buddy Chris Vetter. He gave me the parts list, with what the budget I was trying to work with, and he said, it's a great gaming PC. I can use it for gaming, for my podcast, for recording, and then the studio that I'm using. Like I said, I'm slowly figuring everything out, and I'm trying to do it all by myself so that I can do this. And it's the same thing with like what you guys are saying. Everything that you're doing because you're passionate about it, and that's 100%. That's one thing I will never knock somebody for being passionate about something. Like again, growing up, I was a huge nerd. Only one in my family who was like that. The rest of my brothers were just not like that. They were in and out of trouble, whatever. But, I was always, getting picked on and made fun of because, I was a nerd, or I was doing this. I was passionate about, doing other things, or, reading books. But at the same time, I'm not out hurting anybody. I'm not getting in trouble. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, don't knock somebody just because they're passionate or they like doing something.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was homeschooled, and like I was a part of some homeschool groups, and I was the weird kid.
So
Like
wait, so wait, so out of the weird kids, you were the weird kid.
I was the weird one.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
So I was like the weirdest of the weird ones.
Right, because everybody
And
knows homeschool kids are sociopaths.
yeah, well, I mean, that's why I'm so successful. Just kidding. I'm totally kidding. I'm broke, guys. I'm just kidding. No, but I was always like the weird kid, and I definitely have realized that being able to create things and say like this is my place and this is the thing that I'm good at, like
Right.
has helped me like find an identity
Hmm.
and be able to like steer myself away from like those negative ideas of myself a little bit more, because I can be like, this is the thing you should know me for.
Right.
That weird girl who likes to watch sci-fi and listen to D&D podcasts is like totally cool. She makes really cool art. You don't have
You know
to pay
what,
attention
though?
to the nerdy part.
I think it takes so much bravery, though, to just, like, claim that and own it and make
Most
sure people
definitely.
know about it.
Yeah.
100%. Because to this day, I understand that I am. Oh God, I'll be 28 this year. I'm almost 30. I have two small children. You know, I have a job. Like, granted, yes, I still work retail, but I'm a manager. I run an
Yeah.
entire store. You know, I have people dependent on me. Okay,
Mhm.
and I understand that I'm 100% an adult. But do I still love to sit and play D&D? Do I still sit and play Magic the Gathering? Fuck
Mhm.
yes. Why should I be ashamed of that? Why?
Yeah, absolutely. Dude, I'm a nerdy ass play kid. Like, I'm gonna own it. Like, that's who I am. That's who I've always been. My father wanted to name me Galadriel. I'm gonna act like fucking Galadriel.
Oh man, now we got Tolkien up here. That is awesome, and that's one thing I will always support. And like I have, I've said it before, and I've always been just the kind of person like I don't care who you are as long as you're not. Okay, how do I say this? I'll sound like it's weird. Like I can be friends with most people. You know,
Mhm.
I can hang out with you. You know, for the most part. You
Mhm.
know, and as long as you're not like someone who's using me or like putting my family in harm's way.
Mhm.
you know, I can be friends with you. And
Absolutely.
it's like something I said in one of the first podcasts. It was, and it's exactly what we were just talking about. You know, you have a wide range of interests, a wide range of activities, and just a wide range of friends. I mean, it's like a really super old meme where it was like, I got friends that you know are drug dealers and they're on the street or whatever and they're in gangs, and I've got friends that are still trying to catch all 150 original Pokemon. If you're my
Yeah.
friend, you're my friend.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that is fucking awesome. I've loved everything you guys have told me so far. So I know you guys said now with the coronavirus going on in the lockdown, you guys are currently out of work, correct?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with I mean, I don't know how it is in Pennsylvania, but I know here in Texas, next week we're starting to open up slowly, where
Mhm.
businesses can start running at 20% occupancy and things of that nature. So, with that happening here, have you any inkling inclination of when you guys might be able to start opening up? Because I know tattooing is severely intimate, like
Mhm.
severely, and it can be. I
Mhm.
mean, because there's it. You
Mhm.
know, your whole body is your canvas, and you know, if people want a tattoo on their boob, okay. If they want it on their arm or
Mhm.
their leg or their hell, people who want like the lower back tattoos or whatever, wherever they want it, it's severely intimate, and that's a lot of physical touch.
Mhm.
So, do you foresee that you guys might be able to open up soon, or do you think it's still going to be a while?
So we actually have a health department in Lancaster that works with tattoo shops specifically.
Okay.
Um, and they have been on everything since like the shutdown started. They actually called us and said, "Don't open until we tell you to open again."
Wow.
And so we haven't heard anything from them at this point. Uh, I personally feel like I, um, well, as somebody who has an autoimmune disorder,
Hmm.
it's a little more risky on my end, not
Right.
because of like me spreading things, because obviously we work in an environment that's super sterile. Like we
Exactly.
we aim to be have everything be as sterile and clean as possible 24/7. So that since we already strive for that, I don't see that being the issue. It's more of an aspect of I can't risk myself and my family because they're the most important thing.
No,
So
100%. And I was actually going to say that, like, tattoo shops, like, at least a legit good tattoo shop, all you walk in there and you either smell sanitizer or you smell alcohol. Not like
mhm.
drinking alcohol, but,
Right, no,
rubbing alcohol.
Yeah.
right,
And, like, you go in, the shops I've been in, at least the good ones, where
hmm
you can see the shine on the chairs
hmm
or the bench. I don't know what they're called, but,
yeah,
like, the benches that people lay down on.
Yeah.
yeah,
And you see, like, the shine from where you can tell if it wasn't just done, it was recently just wiped
right,
down and everything. So,
yeah,
like, that I can totally understand you guys being already in that mindset. But
right.
that's absolutely terrible that you guys still don't have an estimated date or a time.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're doing slow openings right now, but I mean, even hair salons aren't quite opening 100%
Right.
yet in
hmm
Pennsylvania, and they're the codes are very similar for tattoo shops and hair salons. But the difference between tattoo shops and hair salons is that they're changing the molecular structure of
Right.
somebody's hair, and we're changing like actual flesh
Right.
and dealing with things that are going to like affect their bloodstream
Oh, most
and do
definitely.
all of those things. So um, it's like it's definitely more on the spectrum of a medical procedure than
Right.
it is on that spectrum of a like cosmetic procedure. So
100%.
um, me personally, I would rather like put myself in a situation where I'm going to have to just like work a little harder to get some illustration jobs than like risk anybody getting sick, because I personally have that option. Now
Right.
Bridget is that, I mean, that's mostly like all
hmm
of like your jobs come through the tattoo shop. So
Yeah.
it's hard to say because like she's not immunosuppressant. So I don't, yeah, it's something that's like, it's very challenging because you, on one end, you need money to
100%.
survive,
And
Yeah.
and like you need to, and like we just got, like, the state just finally opened up the platform for self-employed people to file for unemployment
good luck.
last week. So like, and how many
hmm
people have filed it forever ago
Right.
and just now are getting their checks. So it's like this is looking at like a month more without making
Yeah.
an income.
Well,
So
that's one thing. I'm sorry that I cut you off there.
no, 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 I'm done.
That's one thing where I am so torn on the subject because not only am I'm an essential employee, so I am still working day in
Right.
and day out, but it's also I see both sides. I am not
Hmm.
educated enough to take a stance on either. I
Yeah.
understand people don't want to get sick. They don't want their loved ones to get sick. They don't want their family to die. I
Hmm.
100% support that, understand it. I will never shame you for saying that.
Hmm.
But I also understand, and I think you can also kind of understand this
Yeah.
yourself as a small business owner, someone who's pouring their life savings into something that now, because of something that is no fault of their own, there's a possibility that they will go bankrupt now and lose everything, and all they want
Right.
to do is try to be safely reopen.
Yeah. No,
That's
absolutely.
all I'm saying. I'm not taking one side or the other because I know
Hmm.
there's extremists on both sides. I definitely I as someone who's not and again I don't feel this is the platform for me to make that decision, but I definitely see both sides to the argument because I
Yeah.
understand both. Like 100%, I don't want my babies to get sick.
Right.
100%. When I'm at work, I'm wearing gloves and a mask. As soon as I walk through the door, my clothes go in the washing machine.
Hmm.
I wash my hands and my face and any arm surface
Yep.
that I feel like, even though I had just washed and sanitized at work. But I
Hmm.
still do all that before
Yeah.
I come in, give my wife a kiss, hug and kiss my kids.
Hmm.
But like I said, it's so hard because I can't knock any side of it because you see
Right.
both, and
Yeah.
it's so unfortunate that it is such a polarizing issue where there are people that are like, no, the economy is not worth your life. I
Right.
understand that. I 100% understand that.
Hmm.
Yes, I'm a libertarian and I'm all about the free market, but at the same time, I don't want somebody who I love and care about, who put their entire life savings into this business that they're trying, that no fault of their own, now they're bankrupt and destitute.
Yeah. No,
Mhm.
I mean, there's like every single human, our main drive is to survive.
Yes.
I mean, that is the human goal. And right now, we are being opposed at both ends.
Yep.
And this is a situation that, like, none of us have gone through. You
No.
know, like, we're all figuring it out together. And the moment we decide that one side's bad guy, that is when we polarize ourselves even more and we
100%.
isolate ourselves even more because, like, how much is that like how much is that like what we want? Like, we don't want to have to fight with everybody.
No.
Like, we don't want to have to be angry at everyone. Like, we just want everybody to be safe. And there should be it you don't want it to become political, but it does become political, because then it goes back to like, why are we so worried about money? Like,
Right.
This is terrible. Like, this is not a working system in the first place.
Right, but at the same time, you need money to survive. I can't
Exactly.
I can't
Yeah.
feed my children without money. I don't want
Right.
to depend. And again, it has nothing to do with saying one side is right and one side is wrong.
Exactly.
And of course, and I've said from the beginning, this channel is nothing about taking any kind of political stance.
Right.
But at the same time, it doesn't matter. My personal belief, I don't want someone else providing for my family.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is going to be the bottom line for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Not to
Yeah.
derail or anything.
No. I don't know. Like, I just want everybody to be taken care of. That's like my biggest thing is that, like, I just want to make sure everybody's okay all the time because, like, that's where my brain's at. And,
No,
like,
and that's
I
I
just
wish
want to
more
make
people
sure
were like that.
I want to make sure that, like, my clients are not only like doing things that they want to do, but things that they should be doing. And so, like, that's why it's a hard decision to make with opening your shop back up,
Right. 100%.
Yeah. And so I think personally, going back to whether or not we would go back into business whenever things start reopening, if there's enough like scientific evidence and to support that it is safer to open certain businesses, and being that I'm not immunocompromised and
Right.
that I work in such a sanitary environment already, even, taking extra precautions and wearing gloves the entire time and, regardless of whether I'm touching a tattoo machine or not, and of course wearing a mask. So I would not be opposed to going back to work personally.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I would be putting anyone at risk either because we don't work with children and we don't work with people who don't have a choice. Like, this is their choice. They're consenting adults.
Right.
So I wouldn't see an issue with like me personally going back to work if it's safe.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, honestly, like, our policy is you can't get tattooed if you're on antibiotics and if you're sick anyway. Like, that is, like, a rule that we have implemented to, like, be getting started. And, like, so, like, it's not going to change our policies. Like, our policies are there to, like, make sure everybody's secure and safe anyway. So that's going to continue in the future.
Exactly, and they've always been of the highest standard.
Good, and I believe that, and that's why I will continue. As soon as you guys let me know you're open up, I will make sure I shout it from the rooftops on this podcast to get everybody to come over to the shop. So, with that being said, we're about to wrap it up here.
Excellent.
This was fantastic. I really appreciate having you ladies on.
Yeah.
One last thing for you
Thank
both,
you.
and it's a kind of a closing question that I've been asking everybody since the podcast started, and is if you had one thing that you wanted to say to kind of to all the people that are out here that are deemed essential, like yes, retail, but also like the nurses or the EMTs or anything out there that it still has to work and out there putting their lives and their family lives at risk because they still have to work and they still have to bring home a paycheck.
Yeah.
What is one thing you would say to them? Like, what is one thing that you want that you could use this time in this platform? Like, just a little quick, what would you say to them to let them know that they're not alone? That there are people that see what they're doing and that they matter.
Well, I think I would just say, that we're all on your side, no matter like what political stance you have or how your opinion might be different from someone else's, we're all rooting for the essential employees to succeed and to be safe because they are essential. You are essential, and we wouldn't continue without you. So thank you, and we are on your side.
Thank you, Bridget. That's beautiful. Sadie, anything to add on that?
I would just say that everything has been so complicated for so long, and to be able to see the basics of what humankind needs and being able to see those people be put up on the pedestals that they deserve and hear the world go quiet for a while has been like the most beautiful thing. And I just feel so privileged to have so many friends and so much family that are still essential workers, and getting to know people personally that are making those changes and remembering how many thousands of those are out there in the world. You guys are the real warriors and the real MVPs, yo. You're the real MVP, bro. You hear me?
All right, ladies. Again, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to say that. And once again, I greatly appreciate you guys coming on the show. I had a fantastic time, and this is actually now, if I'm not mistaken, this is the longest show I've had to date. So
Because we're
kudos.
jabbermouths.
That's okay. I love
We
it.
do talk a
I
lot.
did not. I told you, ladies, I would not cut you off. My friend Lauren, who I had on a couple episodes ago, can't wait to have her back on because I know if I would have let her go the whole time, like just not stopped her, it would have been a 3-hour episode. And I'm like, I'm not quite there yet. So
yeah, no.
But ladies, I appreciate you being on. Like I said, as soon as your shop is back open, I will be plugging it all I can. Everybody out there listening, again, this is Retail Shenanigans, episode 11. Remember, we are still running our competition right now. First, the 50th subscriber is going to get a $10 Amazon gift card from me. So spread the word. And again, thank you guys. Have a great night.
All right, good night.